All right, okay. So here is Microsoft Azure, right? So most companies these days, they have moved to cloud services, right? When it comes to cloud services, we have different options that we can go for, right? So we have an option called the public cloud, right? The public cloud is where all the companies can be found in one cloud services or in one infrastructure coming from different organizations, all sharing the public cloud. So the good advantage with the public cloud is that it's cheaper, right? So if you want storage on a public cloud, it's cheaper for you to get like a storage from Microsoft if you fall under public. But the problems now with the public cloud is that you can't store, you can't load your company proprietary information or sensitive information to the public. Because what happens is back in the day, when Microsoft created containers, like so in public cloud, what happens is all of the organizations that fall under the public cloud, Microsoft will create a container for each organization and then assign each container to a specific organization. But now the problem was that they had an issue whereby some of the data will bleed to another container. So let's say advanced assessment is storing some of its information on a public cloud environment. What will happen is back in the day, the problem that they faced was that some of the data that was owned by other companies will bleed to another container that belongs to a different company. So you find that like now, public cloud, we don't recommend it for sensitive information or for proprietary information. So proprietary information, you rather store it internal or in-house, right? So you rather store it locally in your organization building. So public, it is cheaper, right? But the problem is that your information might end up like maybe leaking to different containers that belong to different companies. So sensitive information, we don't store it on cloud, right? That's number one. And then we have like the public, we have the community cloud, and then what's the other one? We have like the private. So the private is expensive. So the private cloud is whereby advanced assessment gets its own storage on cloud. It's not sharing the platform with any other organization. So private is mostly used by the governments, by the banks, which deal with a lot of sensitive information. So they store their information on a private. The problem with private is that it's expensive, but it is secure when comparing it to the public, right? So those are the other, what you call the features or the options that we have when it comes to cloud. So we have the public, we have the private. The private, we're saying it is safer. You can store your sensitive information because you're not sharing the container, you're not sharing the platform with anyone. You're given your own environment, and then you store all of the company resources on that private cloud. And then we have the community cloud, communities whereby we have all of these organizations maybe that are in the same industry. They say, okay, let's all have like our own container so that we can store all of our data to that platform. So community is mainly for organizations that are maybe in the same industry or are kind of doing something that is kind of related. So they say, okay, let's let's store all of our data in cloud, and then that becomes a community. It has its own advantages and then disadvantages. So the advantages of cloud now is I like cloud because let's say you want to create like a virtual machine. So Microsoft provide us with something called a virtual machine. So let me just show you here on my system and see. You can see I have virtual machines here. So if I want to build a virtual machine here, if I want to start any of these virtual machine, I can build a virtual machine, one machine that I can allocate to all of my users in my organization. For example, let's say I have like 50 or 20 users in my organization, and then I don't want to buy expensive computers for all of them because we know how expensive computers can be, right? So I don't want to buy expensive computers for them, especially the Core i7. So I want to rent a machine from Microsoft Cloud, or Amazon or Oracle, all of these cloud providers. So I want a virtual machine. A virtual machine is just a computer that is located on the cloud provider side. So it's an infrastructure that is located on the infrastructure side. So then what I do is I rent out a machine from Microsoft, right? And then Microsoft says, okay, they ask me to, okay, what are the specs that I need for this specific machine? I tell them the specs. The good part of the virtual machine is that it's elastic, right? It can grow depending on the company needs. So for example, let's say we are usually busy on, let's say maybe on month end, that virtual machine, it can enlarge or it can increase the specs of that specific machine to cater for the current needs, right? So the difference between a virtual machine and then your local machine is just that the virtual machine, it is on the cloud service provider's infrastructure, and then it has the capabilities of increasing the specs of that specific machine depending on the needs or the demand that is coming from our side. So for example, let's say during the month, we usually need maybe like a Core i7 spec and then maybe a 6 gig of RAM. It works fine for us during the month. But when it comes month end, people get busy. So if the need or the demand grows in our organization, that virtual machine can also enlarge or can also increase the specs in that system to cater for the demand in that part. So that part, that term, we call it elasticity, right? So it can grow, it can expand depending on the demands of the organization. So if we need more specs, then it can increase. So it's different from our local machine. We can't do that with our local machine. And then the good part of it with virtual machines is that you pay for what you use. So for example, let's say this week, nobody's using the machine. So Microsoft doesn't charge us for that. So we only pay for what we use, right? And then the other part is that if there is a problem with the virtual machine, we don't need any technician within our organization to fix that. Anyone can call Microsoft, and then Microsoft will be the ones attending to that issue. So virtual machines are really good for small organization, also for big, okay, like they come up with a good advantage for small organization, the ones that don't have technical support in-house. So they can opt for virtual machine, and then Microsoft is the one that's going to be conducting all the support. So they will have like someone in that organization who calls Microsoft and then tell them about any problems that they're facing within their organization or within that machine. So these are the advantages that cloud computing has brought to us. So you'll see that most of the companies now, they are relying heavily on cloud. All of your emails, they are stored on Office 365, which is on the Microsoft infrastructure platform. Everything's that side. And then the virtual machines, which is like the base. I think I really love what they did with when it comes to virtual machines, right? Because the advantages, we're going to look at how to build a virtual machine on Microsoft Azure on this platform, right? So what you do, you just need a portal from Microsoft. So you just go to this link, portal.azure.com, create an account with Microsoft, and then you will have an access to these resources. As you can see, this side, you can access all of the resources, resource groups, app services, function app, like if you have apps within your organization that you want to host them on Microsoft Azure, you can do that, you can host them. And then if you have like an SQL database, we can create an SQL database. We're going to do that, I don't know when, but we're going to create an SQL database and then also create virtual machines. But what I want us to focus on today is the Azure Active Directory, adding users to your organization. So this is going to be one of your responsibilities as a system support technician, right? Let's say HR hires someone else, right? So they come to you and say, okay, you need to onboard this new user to our network. So they'll give you like the information about the new user, their name, and then their surname. So you have to create an email account for them and then also add them on the Active Directory so that they can be part of this Active Directory. Yesterday, we spoke about something called AAA, which is the authorization, authentication, and then accounting. So this AAA, it facilitates control of the resources in our network, also control of the users. What exactly are the users deleting? Which resources the users have access to? So AAA, we say it stands for authentication, which is first time we need to create a username and a password for this user so that they will have access to advanced assessment resources, right? So that is authentication. That's part number one. And then number two, we said we have authorization, right? Authentication, so the user will provide their username and their password, and then the system will take that and compare with what it has on the server. If that person belongs to advanced assessment, right? That's authentication. Authentication is similar to what you do in your phone, right? So your phone is a password. So every time you log in or you want to use your phone, you have to provide your password, and then your phone will check within the database and then says, okay, does the password that you provided and then the password that's stored inside your phone, does it match? If it matches, then you are authenticated. You are given access to your phone, right? That is authentication. And then number two, we're saying authorization. Every time we have these users in our organization, right? We last time is it Adrian spoke about like the least privilege. So and then yesterday we spoke about role access based control, and then we spoke about discretionary access based control, and then mandatory access control. So number one is creating a username and a password for these users, which is authentication. So we want everyone who connects to advanced assessment to be checked that are they part of advanced assessment? Do they belong to this network? So we do that using the authentication part. Give them a username. Some companies use biometrics, right? Of which biometrics is something that you are, right? Your fingerprint, your iris, your iris scanner, whatever, your facial recognition, voice recognition. So those are biometrics. So that we might use all of those methods to authenticate, right? So after authentication is authorization. So yes, the system has proved that you are part of advanced assessment, right? You work for advanced assessment. Now we have to prove now, we have to move to our next stage, which is authorization. Now to check, okay, which resources do we have access to, right? That is authorization. So which resources, yes, you are part of advanced assessment, but which resources do you have access to? So yesterday we said to make things easy for us, we create groups. For example, we can create a group for each department, and then we give permissions to the group instead of giving permissions individually to individual users, right? We create a group, and then we give permissions to that specific group, and then anyone who needs permissions, and then we can just put them on that group. So they will by default now get the permissions or have access to the resources that that group is assigned to. So that's an easy way. For example, let's say you're managing a company that is like maybe 500 users. I can't do that like to individual user and then assign them individually permissions. That's like tedious work. That's too much work for me, right? So I need a solution that will make things easy for me. So what we do is, first thing, authorization. We assign a user, we give them a username and then a password. Number two, authorization. What is it that you are authorized to access in our network? So we spoke about least privilege. So least privilege is all about saying, okay, you only have access to resources that you need to conduct or to do your everyday work. That is least privilege, right? So if, let's say you are under HR department, so all of the software that HR department need, all of the system that HR department needs to access, we will give you that. So you don't need anything. You don't need resources for finance department. You don't need resources for IT department, unless if you're a manager. So managers, their permissions usually overlap to different groups, right? So that happens in a network whereby you find that there's someone else that their permissions will overlap to different groups because of their job role. So yesterday we spoke about role-based access control. So role-based access control, we said it facilitates the issuing out of permissions based on your job role, right? So when we're working, like especially the banks, so a bank environment says, okay, there are people that have access to software that approves loan, right? And then there are people that have access to software that maybe help out people with applying for loans and things like that. So we have another control that is called, I forgot the term. What's that term now? Whereby we can't give one person access to the system that helps out people to apply for loans, and then also give them access to approve. So of which now, if we do that, that means this person can commit fraud, or they can do whatever they want with the system. So we don't give permissions that kind of like overlap to other systems, just to avoid or to protect systems or protect people from committing fraud in their organization. So we have things like that in the organizations, right? So authorization is saying, okay, authentication, yes, we are part of advanced assessment. We check that. And then authorization says, okay, what access what access do we have, right? What permissions do we have in this network? Number 3 says, okay, authorization. So as an administrator, number 3 is accounting, right? Whatever you do in this network, in our network, I need to know who deleted a certain document, who approved a certain loan, right? So I need to have all that information. So that part, accounting, it helps us when it comes to auditing, right? So there's a part whereby we need to audit to check the event log, right, on our machine to find out, okay, who did what, and then what exactly did the how much money did how many loans did they approve this month, or maybe what exactly they did on our system. So that's the part of auditing. So we need to be able to audit after that. So that's why we have accounting. So you are accountable for any action that you take in our systems, right? So if, let's say, maybe we have a certain data that is deleted or certain data that was stolen by someone else, and then they emailed it to, like, company sensitive information that was stolen by someone else from our network, then we need to be able to tell them, okay, we had access to that specific information. And then what time did they have access to that? And then what exactly did they do to that specific information? So that's the main reason we have AAA, which is authentication, authorization, and then accounting. So how do we manage that? How do we manage the AAA? We start here on this on Active Directory, right? So we have this platform here is Microsoft Azure, right? Active Directory. So you can see now, let's say we have a new user that has been employed by Advanced Assessment, and then we have to onboard this user, meaning that this user needs a username and a password so that they can access resources in our network. So you can go to users, click users there, and then you can see I have added a new user yesterday, just testing my system. I have added Sandile from Retro, and then you can see their email address, and then I also created a password. So now I want to create a user. So you can see we have different users here. We have a new user, a new guest user. So this feature here, the guest user, is for people that are coming into advanced assessment, maybe for a short time, right? Maybe they're here on contract for 3 months. And then if you add them as a guest user, then that means after 3 months, their account expires. Their account, they get kicked out of the advanced assessment resources. So they get kicked out of Active Directory after 3 months. So this is for guests. Or let's say you want to give access to a supplier or someone else who's helping out, who's helping advanced assessment with maybe certain things at advanced assessment. So what we do is we give them a guest account. So that means this person is not part of our domain. So their email address is not part of the advanced assessment domain. So it's a guest. So I usually prefer this guest account I usually use it for giving people who are part of advanced assessment, maybe for a short time. Maybe they're on a contract, so you assign them to as a guest. And then this side, we have other options. Okay, the bulk operations. Let's say you have like now 20 users that you need to add to your computer. Instead of adding them one by one, you can add them all at the same time, which is the bulk operation. So it's quicker than adding people one by one. If you have like 50 or 100 people that needs to be added on Active Directory, you can use bulk operation. So you will need a CSV file, and then that CSV file with the names of the people that need to be added on Active Directory, and then just transfer those people to Active Directory, and then they become part of this. Okay. And then PA user multi-factor authentication. Okay, Adrian spoke about the multi-factor authentication, what it means, right? So multi-factor authentication, when it comes to authentication, we have 4 options, right? So it tests, like, first we have what you are, right? That's part of multi-factor authentication, what you are. So what you are, it is biometrics, right? We're talking about your fingerprint, we're talking about your facial recognition, we're talking about voice recognition, we're talking about checking your eyes, all those things, right? So we use what you are, what you know, or what you have. So we have all these 3. When it comes to multi-factor authentication, we have all these 3, right? Of which what you are is biometrics. What you have, what you think that is. Anyone wants to guess? So we're saying we have three options when it comes to multi-factor authentication, right? We test what you are, which is biometrics, right? The system is testing or checking your fingerprint, voice recognition, voice or checking facial. And then now we're asking about what you have. What do you think that is? Letabo?
Usually a key card or tag.
What you have might be the tag, right? So it might be a tag or RFID card, right? So that's what you are. And then the other one is what you know, the third one. So what is that? What you know? There's three of these. What can that be? Letabo?
Password, PIN, or pattern.
So it's a password or PIN or pattern. So multi-factor authentication looks for those three things. So when we're saying we're using multi-factor authentication, that means we are using either two of these that we've spoken about, right? We have three of them. So if it's multi-factor authentication, it means you are using two of those, right? So first one we say is what you are, which is biometrics. What you have, which is maybe a card, a token, like your bank card, like the card that your company gives you, all of those things. And then what you know, which is your PIN, your password, your the pattern that you know, right? So that is what multi-factor authentication is all about. All right, so now I want to add a new user to my network, right? So you click that part that says new user. Okay, my network, my system is complaining about bad network. Can you guys hear me clearly that side?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, so we have spoken about authenticate AAA, right? So now what we're saying is the HR department, they've employed a new user, right? They want us to onboard that person, meaning that we have to add them to Active Directory. So now, new user. So they'll give you like the information about that person, their name, ID number, biometrics. You can take the biometrics from them and then add them. Let's say now we are adding Letabo to this company, which is Advanced Assessment. And then their name, Letabo, full name, right? Okay, Letabo, I just add Letabo. The username is going to be Letabo. Maybe let's say your company uses their first name and then maybe first name plus the initial of their surname. Letabo Mola M, right? Let me add an M there for Letabo. And then first name. Letabo, what's your surname? Mola. Is it Mola? All right, there's Letabo. M-O-L-A-T. All right, there is, right? So you have an option whereby the system auto-generate a password for you, right? So it can auto-generate a password for you, or you can create your own password. I prefer creating my own password and then give it to the user. So let me create a password there. Must be a strong password. Let me change that. So that's the table there. And then groups, but we haven't created any groups now. So the groups are the ones that we're going to be assigning permissions to, right? So that after that, we can add people to these specific groups. But for now, I just want to start with Letabo, and then we're going to create a group after this. So the roles, you can see, now we want to know, the system wants to know what's the role of Letabo in this company. So you can click on users, and then your directory will already have information about departments that we have at Advanced Assessment. But for now, we only have these created by Microsoft. So let's say maybe Letabo is part of IT department. Let me see if we've help desk administrator, right? There he is. We add him to that. That's his role. So you can check on the side what's the role, what are the permissions that you have. So can reset passwords for non-administrators and then help desk administrators. So these are the roles that he has on this part. Or can make him a group administrator, but for now, let's start by giving him one role and then select that. You can see his role is part of what? The help desk administrator. Block sign in, usage location. So since this system is on cloud, right? So the system will require you, or Azure will require you to specify which country is this person going to be logging in from. Because it's a cloud platform, right? Then we can say South Africa. From South Africa. If this user will be maybe in Botswana or in the States, then we can choose the States there. And then that job title, we say help desk technician, right? Technician. And then department is under IT, company name, advanced assessment, and then manager. And then we can choose a manager for him. So if you have different managers here, we can, let me add him under this. That's his manager there. So that means before we get to this stage, you would have created like manager accounts, right? To say, okay, and then also groups. Some people prefer starting with the groups. All right, Tiseto?
Melusi, I'm hearing you saying that you signing Letabo as a user here in South Africa. Let's say Letabo decides to the 2 hours. Will he be able to access the PC?
Wait, there's a part that I missed there. What was the question?
I'm saying, you saying that you signing Letabo as a user here in South Africa, right? And then Letabo decides to visit Botswana in 2 hours. 2 hours after signing him in your PC, will he be able to access another PC using his username in Botswana?
Yes, but I will get a message. I'll get, like, first, before you even access that, right? I'll get a message, a notification message saying, okay, there is a user or Letabo is trying to log in from this location. Then I have to approve as an administrator. The reason why we're choosing location is to secure our users, right? Because we know this is on cloud. So most people from different countries can access this data. So by specifying a country, if someone else outside this country that I specified tries to log in, I get a notification, and then I have to approve that yes, Letabo is working, is now working in Botswana. So he's going to be doing his work in Botswana. Then I will have to change that, give him that authorization, authorize to have access in our resources while he's in Botswana. Then I will have to change it on the system. But as an administrator, you will get a notification that someone is trying to log in from using Letabo's account from Botswana. It's more like a security feature that you get from Microsoft. Does that answer your question, Tiseto?
Yes, you did answer the question.
Okay, so now let's create a user. We're creating a user there. It says roles could not be granted. Okay, successfully created a user. You can see now we have Letabo now. He's part of the Active Directory. So next time now, when Letabo wants to log into our resources or access anything at Advanced Assessment, I just give him his email address because I've created a new email address for him. And then I've also created a password for him. So I just have to give him what? A username and the password, right? So he will have access to Advanced Assessment resources. Okay. So, and then also we spoke about the event logs, right? You can see now notifications. All the administrators will receive this message that whatever you do on this platform, there will be all the administrators of this Azure, they will receive a notification letting them know that this is an event that has happened in Azure. This is Melusi have added the Letabo to our network. So that, remember we spoke about accounting, right? So it's for auditing so that we know what exactly happened to our network. Okay, so that's Letabo there. Let me try to create a group now instead of just one user. Let me go back default directory and then go to groups. And then I say new group. Group type, you can specify what type of a group is, if it's a Microsoft 365 or a security. So these are the groups that have been created by Microsoft. So you can just choose any group that you have add or edit there. So security, and then group name, just say IT department. Right, and then group description. Let's say maybe, let me just say IT team, right? Or like help desk. And then membership type. Okay, I don't have access to that. Okay, there's some other features that I don't have access to because I didn't pay for this. It's like a free account, right? So if you want to add an owner to this account, we can add an owner. Let's say maybe, let me add this one as an owner of this group. So remember, once you become an owner of the group, yesterday we spoke about the mandatory access control. I'm sure Kiribone still remember that part, right? Whereby we said,
Yes.
Yeah, so this person is the owner. And then now if they are the owner, they have like the right to also assign permissions to different people. But with the part of mandatory, we said we kind of like choose for the owners of the group who to grant access to, right? We spoke about discretionary access control. We said the owner of the group is the one that decide what permissions they assign to different users because they own that group. If we're using discretionary, then the owner of the group is the one who decides who has access to certain resources. But if you're using role-based access control, us as the administrators, network administrators, we assign permissions based on your role at advanced assessment, right? So here we have one owner, and then we need to add members to this group, right? So on the side, it will show you sometimes we don't only add users to the groups, right? We might add also resources. For example, a system can also be added to a group. Let's say there is a software that we use, and then that software, it needs access to another resource in our network. We can also add that software to the group so that it will have access to a certain system. There are other softwares that communicate with each other in our network, but they also need permissions to access that information, right? So it might not only be users that we assign permissions that we add to the group. We might also add permissions to resources that we have in our network. For example, as a software that communicates with another software, so it will need permissions to access another software, right? Have you ever seen in your phone where it says there's another application that wants access to, maybe is it your Gmail account or maybe to your other account? You need to grant permissions to that. Have you ever seen that part, that process whereby another application is requesting permission to access certain resources in your account?
Yes.
I'm sure you have seen that. Like, for example, the good example would be Zoom. And then let's say you try to maybe log in add a meeting to your calendar, to your Gmail account calendar. So Gmail will send you a message saying, okay, Zoom is trying to access your calendar. Do you grant permission to this? And then you have to grant permissions. So sometimes permissions are not only given to users only. Also, other systems, they need permissions to access or to communicate with other resources or to fetch some information from other resources. So you'll find that, okay, here we have, this is a system, other systems, right? You might assign maybe this system to that group, right? Now I'm looking for, let's say, if you say search, I'm looking for Litabo, I want to add him to that group, right? Litabo. So definitely we have like so many users here. So the best way to locate that user is to type their name on search, and then you'll find that user there. There's Litabo. I select Litabo and then select. So you can see now in my group, it shows how many people. So I have added an application, and then I also have added a user to this group, right? So you can create, and then you create a group there. So you can see we have a group there that is called Advanced Assessment. And then I've clicked on the group. Membership tab, let's see. It shows you direct members, 1 users, and then one owner, and then others. You can see where it shows. So if it's an application or it's a system that you've granted access to this group or you've added to this group, it will fall under other. If it's a device, then you can also add a phone to groups. If let's say there is a phone that you want to grant access to certain resources, then the phone can be added to that specific group. There, that's what we have there. And then you can also add other groups within another group. Right, so it's a long process, but for now, let's just understand that the main reason why we create groups is just for us to make things easy for us, right? So instead of us giving users, assigning permissions to users individually, one by one, we can just create a group, and then everyone who falls under that group, then we can just like add them to that group, which makes our work easy. Sure, Litabo?
So going back to the geolocation part,
Yeah.
I forgot the term that we use. What is it called when you allow certain devices within a certain range to access information, and then outside the range is blocked?
So we call it geofencing, right? So it's geofencing whereby, let's say last time we spoke about creating containers in your phone, whereby your phone has a storage for your work information, and then also a storage for your personal information, right? And then we said once you leave advanced assessment network, then the storage that contains company information, that container disappears. So how does that happen? We have a feature called geofencing, right? It creates a radius to say, okay, this container will only work in this area. Once you move out of that area, the container disappears. So the term is geofencing. I'm not sure, Litabo, if you're looking for a different term, but on my side is on cybersecurity, we call it geofencing.
No, that's the one. Thank you.
That's the one. Yeah, okay, that's geofencing, right? Okay, so anything that you want to know about this particular group, the properties of the group, you can check there, all that information, object ID. So within cloud, in order for cloud to identify certain different resources, right, each object or each feature is given an ID, right, so that it can be identified within the system. So you can see this IT department is given an object ID so that it can be identified in this network, right? And then members, if you want to see all the members that are part of this team, that part of this group, you can see we have a resource there that is part of this team, this group, and then we have Litabo here there, who is part of this. And then the owners, if you want to check how many people own this group, then you can check that. Administrative units. So these are more of the controls, right? Group memberships. All right, so Active Directory, when we're using Microsoft, right, you will notice that you will need a license for most of these users. For example, if we're using Office 365, we need to buy a license for those users so that they can access resources in our network. So, and then Azure role assignments. So if you want to assign a role to this group, right, also, especially the subscription. Okay, for now, I'm using a free account, so there are certain permissions or certain features that I don't have access to. Okay, here's the other important part, which is the audit logs. So this is the part that we're going to use for reporting, right? Whatever the users or the people that are part of the users that are part of this group do, it will be recorded here, right? You can see we have Litabo there, add member to group, I added Litabo, and then add owner to group, we added owner to this group. So any event that happens inside this group or anyone who's part of this group, if they do something, that activity will be recorded on this platform. So if you want a report for the last 7 days, you will get a report for the last 7 days. If you want a report for last 30 days, you can click here. It will show you the reports for the last 24 hours, custom interval. So it's just giving me last 7 days because this Azure platform has been running for, I think, less than 7 days. So you can apply the settings there. And then short dates, we can change all that information. What's the other important information? So bulk operations. So bulk operations if you want to add many people at the same time to this group, that's a bulk operation, right? Something that you don't want to do it one by one. You want to do it in bulk. You can click on bulk, and then you'll see all that information. So at the top there, you can see I'm inside IT department, and then there is the groups feature. And then I want to go back to default directory. So if you want to add a device, okay, we have added users, we have added groups, and then you can also add devices to a network. So last time we said if you want to control devices, devices can be added to something called MDM, Mobile Device Management, of which on your mobile device, there will be an agent, right? And then on our side, we have a controller as the IT department. So in order for us to create containers, your device must be part of the MDM, which is the Mobile Device Management Software. So on your device, on your phone, we install an agent, and then on our side, we have what we call a controller. The agent communicates with the controller. Anything that happens in your computer, in your phone, we can see it, right, using that controller. And then if you want to update your phone, if you want to send some updates in your phone, for example, maybe there is a new update for your phone's operating system, we can remotely update that. If you want to wipe out corporate information from your phone, we can remotely wipe out that information from your phone. And then also we can also decrypt the information from your phone remotely using the controller. All right, the BitLock, okay, say all devices. You see, some of the features are disabled on my side. So if I want to enable these, I can add devices to my network. So the way you add these devices to your network, first you want that person to connect to your network, right? And then you'll be able to the system will be able to locate them within your network and then assign them or add them to MDM. And then device settings, we can also change your phone configurations using the systems like this. Last time we looked at Manage Engine software, right? Which gave us the ability to remotely configure your devices or also remotely audit your system. All the events, all the activities that are happening within your device, we are able to see what's really happening in that device. Okay, we also have something called the BitLocker keys, right? I'm sure, is it Opakeng spoke about the BitLocker? Was it yesterday or day before yesterday? Locally on your phone, the BitLocker is used to encrypt your hard drive. So if you want to encrypt the phones, for example, the data, then we can add that feature so that we can be able to encrypt all of the phones. So we said once you become part of the MDM, Mobile Device Management, we are able to wipe out your data. We are able to encrypt your data. We are able to create containers in your phone. We are able to configure your device remotely because it's part of a system called the Mobile Device Management, right? And then we can also send out updates over the air. We call it over the air updates. All right, and then audit logs. Let me check here under audit logs. Audit, again, is you looking at the events, what's happening with the phones, what's happening with the devices that we have connected on our network. And then we have a new support request. Remember, I said now the online platform, most of the things that we find, most of the problems that you might face here, if you have like any technical error, the internal technicians that belong that are under advanced assessment, that are employed by advanced assessment, they might not be able to fix some of the hardware problems that we're facing within the system. So what we do is we just call out the support team from Microsoft. We can say new support request, click on new support request, and then log in the query, log in the error to Microsoft, and then they'll be able to fix that problem for us. Because the infrastructure is owned or controlled by Microsoft, is not internal at advanced assessment, is not on premises. So we have two terms, right? We have, with this one, we call it the cloud platform. And then we've called what we call the on-prem, right? On premises. So we have the infrastructure that we have on premises, right? And then this one is the cloud. So on cloud, whatever is on cloud, especially the infrastructure, we as internal technicians of advanced assessment, we don't have access to the cloud one, right? We can't change the hardware configurations. We can't fix the hardware configurations, right? Microsoft will. Okay, so if we're facing any technical issues, we can create a support and then we send it to Microsoft. So if it's a billing issue, if it's a subscription issue, you can choose what type of an issue it is, and then we send it to Microsoft. Okay, back to Active Directory. Roles and administrators. I want to look at the roles now. So these are different roles that we have in our organization, right? So you can see we have network administrators. Some they break it down to also password administrators, can reset password for non-administrators and password administrators, printer administrator, printer technician. So these are the roles. So if the role that your company wants is not added by Microsoft here, we can say new custom role. But you can see this feature is blanked out because I don't have permissions, or I don't have the subscription that I'm using. It's a free account, so some of the features are deactivated. But if there is a role that Microsoft didn't add here, then I can create my own via this part there. Say new custom role, and then I create that role and then add to my system. What else am I missing out? Enterprise applications. So we can also add enterprise applications. So at advanced assessment, we have like, so if you want to add a new application, let me click there. So here are the applications that, for example, Office 365, if you want to add it, there is Office 365 SharePoint, Office 365 Exchange Online. I can just click on that, and then let me see, sign up for Office 365 Online. I can sign up. Wait, it's taking me outside. Okay, so you can sign up for that and then add that enterprise application. So what does that mean? So these are the applications that your organization is using. So you will want all of the applications that advanced assessment is using to be on one platform, right? So we have Magnitude, we have maybe online school, we have Office 365, we have Teams. So I want all of those applications that we are using as advanced assessment to be on the same platform. So all of those applications, we can just add them to this system. So if you see the application that you are using, then you can add that application to this platform. So some of the applications here are for for developers, and then some is for payroll. SAP SuccessFactors, SAP is mainly used for payroll, and then we have Salesforce. If your company is using Salesforce, then you can add that. And then if your company is an in-house software, a software that you developed in-house, that software we can also add that software. Say create your own application. So if we created our own application as advanced assessment and then it's not available public, right? So we can add that application using the create your own application. So these are applications that Microsoft knows that most organizations, many organizations, they use this application. So Salesforce is mainly used for finance, like for payrolls. Palo Alto Networks is used mainly for security, for firewalls. And then Office 365, right, for SharePoint, and then Office 365, and then what's the other one? FortiGate SSL VPN is for security, for protecting for VPN. Let's say people are working from home, and then they want to access resources at advanced assessment, we can use this. Cisco Webex is similar to Microsoft Teams or Zoom. So it's kind of like similar to that. So you can add all of these applications. And then, as I said, if the application that you are using as an organization is not part of advanced, is not on this, you can create your own, add it to the platform. And then if, like, let's say, for example, as advanced assessment, we have an account with Amazon, we have an account with other cloud service providers, right? We can also link those accounts to this part to be part of what? Microsoft Azure Active Directory. So if you have a SAP system that is hosted by SAP, we can just link that cloud platform to our system or add it to this. So these are other CSPs. We call them the cloud service providers. Amazon is another CSP. Google Cloud Platform is another CSP, Oracle is another cloud service providers. So if you have other resources that are under Oracle, then you want to add Oracle to be part of this, or you want to add that specific resource to be part of this Azure platform, then you can do that. Just click here, and then we add those specific resources to our platform. Yeah, Kidboni?
Oh, sir, my battery is about to shut down, so right now it's written dismissed. So sorry, sir, for dismissing your class.
No, it's fine. If your battery dies, it's okay. We know that you have you were logged in, yeah.
Oh,
And then
okay,
we know that you never miss any class, right?
yes,
So
sir.
we understand.
Okay, thanks, sir.
All right. And then on Active Directory, there are so many things that you want to add. Identity governance, right? For me, I'm more into cybersecurity, right? So cybersecurity is all about IT governance, right? Risk management. So IT governance, identity governance is all about us protecting the accounts or the users that we have in our organization, right? For example, privileged identity management, entitlement. So governance, wait, something. Okay, identity governance. So this is us protecting all of these accounts that we have in our organization. Sometimes we might have accounts of our subcontractors that are part of maybe there's a project that are working on for advanced assessment, or we have subcontractors, a company that is doing maybe recruiting for us, and then we want them to be part of this. So all of that information, we need to fully protect that information. So if you're a cybersecurity expert, what you are managing is IT governance. IT governance is all about maybe making sure that the user information is protected, especially personally identifiable information. Things like your name, your surname, your ID number, your house number, your house number, right? All that information must be protected by us. And then there are organizations that monitor us. We have an organization called POPI Act. So it's an act that is there to make sure that all organization they follow the laws or the rules that have been stipulated by the POPI Act, right? And then we have all other laws, other organization called the GDPR, POPI Act, and then the the PICC, something that has to do with payment card industry. So those are the organizations that monitor what we do in our network. All right, there's something important that I saw there on cloud that I wanted to talk about. Where is it? On Active Directory. Okay, here's the part that I was talking about, the MDM, mobile device management, right? Some they call it a MEM, mobile, I forgot what A stands for, right? But MDM, this is add an application. If you want to add an application, so this is how we manage our phones. You can see these are the softwares that we can install on. So Microsoft they have their own called Microsoft Intune. So Microsoft Intune is the software that is part of the MDM. So once a user install Microsoft Intune in their phone, then we'll be able to remotely configure their phones, or maybe remotely wipe out their storage, encrypt their storage devices, and then also do whatever we want. Last time, the one that we spoke about was Manage Engine. So Manage Engine is an MDM software, can work as an MDM software that we can use to control our phones, to control maybe our laptops. So this Manage Engine software, we said last time, we can use it also to switch on a device. If your device is off and then I want to work on that device, we can remotely switch on the device and then work on that specific laptop or that specific phone using the Manage Engine. And then IBM, they have their own called MAS360. So you find that there are people that specialize in these softwares. So IT, like when it comes to IT, you can't know everything in IT, right? You can't be on the on the development side of things. You can't be on the, okay, you can, but it will take you time to fully understand. So most people, what they do, they specialize. They choose something that they want to specialize in. unless if your organization forces you to learn all of these other fields. So you find that there are people that specialize on this Microsoft Intune. So you write a certificate about Microsoft Intune. That certificate will now really tell you, okay, this person knows everything about Microsoft Intune. So you'll find that you specialize. There's no way you can know everything. Even me now in IT, I don't really know everything in IT, but I have like 8 years experience in the industry. And then I'm still learning up to today. There are so many things that you will learn in IT. So these are different softwares, right? But once you know how to use the Microsoft Intune, and then you move to a company that uses maybe IBM 360, it will be easy for you because some of the features you already understand them because you have used them maybe, let's say, in Microsoft Intune. Now, when you move to IBM software, then you'll be like looking for maybe location where exactly the feature is maybe placed or all those things. But the function of that specific feature, you already know what the feature is used for. So once you understand one of these softwares, it becomes easy for you to work on all of these. So as I said, different organizations use different softwares. You find that maybe at ABSA prefer IBM 360 software for MTM. And then maybe you move to FNP, you find that FNP is using Microsoft Intune. But as I say that if you have learned or you have used IBM 360, it becomes easy for you to switch to all of these. It's like being a developer, right? If you understand one language, it becomes easy for you to switch from one language to another language because maybe the syntax, you already understand the syntax, then you just have to change a few things. So that's what it is. So that's the mobile device management software. All right, let me see if I'm missing out anything. So usage insight. So this feature is very important on the what you call on Azure, right? Usage insight. So it shows you the space that we have used on Microsoft Azure, so that when it comes to payment, you know, okay, what exactly are you paying for, and then you know your usage. So if you need to increase your what you call your system storage, then you can increase the system storage because the system has already given you an insight of what's really happening, or it gives you an insight of in future or in 2 weeks, how is the usage going to look like based on the information that of the past events. So it can give you information so that you know, okay, what am I preparing for? So that's a usage insight, right? It can show you, okay, see, based on the information or based on the last month usage, this is what we think this month will be your usage, right? It helps people that are under the pay-as-you-go subscription. All right, let me go back to D. Let's see what's the other important thing that I'm missing out. So also the virtual assistant. So Microsoft technician, they can virtually assist you, right? They can virtually assist you, remotely assist you with anything that you need from their side. And then password reset. So if I want enable more so this on password reset, so you can choose which option you want in terms of like if you want to reset password, how do you want to reset password? So we have the improved user experience. Users don't want to call help desk and spend an hour at the phone every time they forget their password. So if you choose this option, password reset, so that means we are granting users permission to reset their password, right? So some organizations, their policy will state that the user can't reset their own password. So IT admin or IT department, they are the ones who have to change to reset the password for the users. So if you choose this one, then the users now will have access, or they will be able to reset their own password. Let's say, for example, the system have locked them out. They forget their password. Then they want to reset that specific password. If you're going with this option, then the user will be able to reset that specific password. And then we have the lower help desk volume. Password management is the single largest help desk driver for most organizations. So other options will be like, okay, only the help desk people will be the ones assigning passwords. Users can reset their password from wherever they are. Also, again, the location also matters, right? You can also choose, you can also say, okay, if the user is not at advanced assessment, location, right, or building, they can't reset their password. So you can also set restriction to say, okay, you only reset the password if you are in this location. So for example, we say Letabo now is in Botswana, right? He can't reset his password. But when he's in South Africa, he has access, he can reset his password when he's in South Africa. But once he moves to a different country, so once location changes, then you don't have access to changing your password. So these are other security features that we have on Active Directory. So you can go through them. Our self-service password reset, you can go through them so that you can fully understand how they work. So if you get a premium trial, then we have access to all of these. For now, I don't have access. All right, company branding. So company branding is all about the laptops that the organization, our users use. So we can also change the theme or the wallpaper on our users' computers remotely. For example, let's say we have people that are working from home, and then someone else uses their baby's picture as their wallpaper, especially for our users that go to clients a lot. So we will want that person to use a company wallpaper. So we can also brand or do that using these features. So we can streamline support for sign-in problems, also improve user experience. User can sign in faster and with. So where is that part? Promote your brand to your end users. So company, we can, as I said, right, we can change your wallpaper in your system using all of these features. So that is Active Directory. And then user settings, let me see what we can do here with user settings. Administration portal, this is can be the Wi-Fi portals. We can restrict some people. User can register applications. External users, what permission. So this is what the options or the permissions that you give to different users in our organizations. So you can see users can register application. If there's an application that the user wants to register, you saw that feature whereby we said where we add applications to organization. Here, if it's yes, that means users can add applications to our organization. And then administrative portal, restrict access to Azure AD administrative portal. Yes, I want to restrict that. So let's say only the administrators must have access to this. Users mustn't have that. And then if we want to link our users' LinkedIn accounts, we can do that using this platform. So allow users to connect their work or school account with LinkedIn. Data sharing between Microsoft and LinkedIn is not enabled until users consent to connect their Microsoft work. So if we have any user that wants to connect their LinkedIn account with our work accounts and stuff like that, we can grant them access. But on this one, the LinkedIn account, the user is the one that gives us permission to connecting that, because that's the account. LinkedIn is their personal account, right? We don't want to invade their privacy, right? So we want them to grant us access to the LinkedIn account. If they don't want, then it's fine. And then also external users, permissions that we use, because external users, as I said, that sometimes we might have a subcontractor, right? Or we want to collaborate with a different organization. So we can grant them permissions down here. We can, for external users, the people that we're collaborating with, especially the developers or especially different projects, we usually collaborate with different organizations so that to make sure that the project completes on time, things like that. So that's the part for collaboration. Guest invite, if you want to invite any guest, that means this is the person who has an account. Let's say their email address is not part of our domain, because our domain is advancedassessment.co.za. So if someone else maybe is, let's say melusi@ppsa.co.za, so that means it's an external user. They are not part of our Active Directory. So we can send out an invite to them. That's an external user, right? So if your domain name is advancedassessment.co.za, that means you are part of our advanced assessment. You are not an external user. Only external users are the ones that like have the domain that is different from us. Let's say, so now you connect using your Gmail account, then the system, Active Directory, considers you as what? An external user. Because you are logging in with an account that is of a outside domain. Okay, what is security? I'm big when it comes to security documentation. Okay, Azure Active Directory, conditional access. So conditional access is the one whereby we said we grant access to resources also maybe based on your location. If you're in Botswana and then we specify that you'll be working in South Africa, then the minute you try to log in when you're in Botswana, the system has to send me a notification as the administrator to approve that. Identity protection, that's the part whereby your identity is being protected. Azure Security Center, as part for security, when we securing our Azure account, identity, securing our identity that we have created in Azure account. So these are the named locations, like the locations that we have added. So they will be under this part. Authentication methods, biometrics, whatever you're using, multi-factor authentication. So that's the part for security, right? So this is what to be risky users. So this is the this feature. Microsoft Azure can pick up users that it considers risky users based on the behavior. Maybe it is it yesterday or Monday where we spoke about artificial intelligence? Azure also uses that, right? So if there is any behavior that is considered risky by Azure, it picks up that, and then that user will be added on this feature called the risky users. So there will be like a behavior that is considered risky. For example, maybe someone else always tries to log in from different location, from a location that we didn't specify, or maybe it might be a user that is downloading proprietary information that they're not supposed to be. Maybe they just got access to that somehow. So that user might be considered a risky user. And then a risky sign-in. Risky sign-in, that's the part whereby we said Litabo we specified that he's going to be logging in from South Africa to our systems, but now he moved to Botswana. Then the system picks up that information, and then we're going to get a report about that risky sign-in. Sometimes the risky sign-in might be based, okay, we said the location. Sometimes risky sign-in might be time. There are some users that will specify what time are they supposed to log into these machines, right? So for example, we say maybe you only work from 8 o'clock till 4:30, right? We can control, we can just give you access from 8 o'clock to 4:30. Outside that, you won't have access to resources to company organization, especially for companies that are really big in security, right? Or that they're dealing with sensitive data. You'll find that there are users that will only be granted access for maybe from 8 to 4:30 for a specific time. After that, they don't have access to work, so they can't do overtime. So their time is limited, especially when you're doing support at the banks or doing the support at Home Affairs, configuring systems for Home Affairs. I once worked on other system for Home Affairs, right, whereby we're kind of granting access to different people. And then they were really big in audit, making sure, okay, they wanted to know who's doing what in their system and things like that, so that when they're conducting audits, the system can pull up that report. So anyone that they consider risky, Azure picks up that user and then gives you a report, okay, that's the risky person. And then I told you, okay, what is it that is considered risky, right? So there are some things that Microsoft Azure might consider risky, but in your organization is not risky, of which you can specify, you can change the settings and say, okay, this in our organization is not risky. So, okay, that's it for Active Directory. Any questions on Active Directory? So next time we're going to be talking about how to create virtual machines on Azure. So we created a user, and then we created groups. we added a user to that groups. And then we can do an overview of that group. So if you want to download groups, you can download groups, meaning that any activity and the users that are found in that group, you can find that information on downloads. Because sometimes you need to report to your supervisor or to your manager. So Microsoft Azure can do a report for us, and then we can just get that information, and then we send a report directly to our manager or the person that we report to. Privileged access groups, see access reviews. So here now, this is the part where we grant access to this group. So it. All right, guys, back to tenants does not have a valid license. So access reviews, right? So come on. Okay, I don't have access to some of the features here because I'm using a free account, right? Okay, general information about the group. So if you want to find more information about this group, self-service group management, expiration. So you can set an expiration date to this group, right? Let's say you have created a group for subcontractors, and then you want this group to expire at a certain time, then you can come here and then say the number of days a group can exist before it needs to be renewed. So you can do that. Naming policy, where is the part that I'm looking for? Access, this is the part that I want, right? Where we grant access to this entire group. So we're saying, okay, we're granting permissions to different groups, to these, to different resources in our network. So, and then we add those people that we add to this group, they will have access to resources that we have granted to this group. But the problem now, I can't review that. I can't change that because of the, what you call the permissions, or my subscription doesn't allow me to get that information, but you can get a summary from here. All right, any questions, guys, before I move to something else? Any questions, guys?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
About external user. Is it a person that is outside the organization?
Yeah, so the Microsoft Azure will pick up that person as an external user based on their email address. So if their email address is not part of our domain, for example, advanced assessment domain name is advancedassessment.co.za. So that means all of the users will be given their domain name, or their email address will be your name at advancedassessment.co.za. So if your ad is not advancedassessment.co.za, that means the system will pick up that user as an external user.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I'm sure most of you have worked in different companies, right? When you go to any company, they'll give you like a company email, right? Let's say maybe melusi@ppsa.co.za, right? So if you're not part of that domain at ppsa.co.za, the system says, okay, you are an external user. Any questions within the any questions for this topic? I want to move to firewalls, right? Networking, in terms of like how to control these users, how to block these users. Tiseto, just give me a summary of what you've learned so far. Tiseto.
Yeah, I am here.
Yeah.
I have learned about the authentication and the triple A's, and the biometrics, how and how to add another user on your PC, how they can access your PC. Yeah.
All right. Anyone who learned something new? Anyone who learned something new?
I have learned about the identity governance, that it's cybersecurity absence user information is protected. And I've also learned the company branding, the user settings restrict some people, the options, the permissions you can give to other users. Also learned the risky users based on the behavior. The Azure, it picks up bad or risky behavior. Users download inappropriate things. Yeah, that's what I learned.
Okay. Thank you. Spusiso, what have you learned? I want to move to something else. Spusiso Chauke. So as I wait for Spusiso to answer that question, so guys, Microsoft Azure, this is a system that is used by most of the organization right now, right? Most organizations have moved to cloud services, of which it makes it easy for most of the organization. It takes away that in-house support, right? So if an organization is small and then they don't want to hire or they want to contract any company for tech support, so they just move to cloud. So when you move into cloud, the support now, if anything goes wrong on our systems, you find that we have to call Microsoft, and then Microsoft will be the one fixing most of the problems, especially if it's hardware and all those things. So companies will maybe only hire maybe one person that is really what you call really equipped, who really understand Microsoft Azure platform. So they will be the ones adding users to Microsoft, to Active Directory. But when it comes to fixing that, they rely on Microsoft. So now I want to ask a question, right? I've seen most people have degrees in IT, right? You find a degree or a diploma in IT. But the thing is, most schools, they don't teach these tools. They just teach us generic IT information. They are not specific. They don't stick to a certain vendor, right? They'll just tell you, okay, there's cloud, but they don't really stick to a specific vendor to say, okay, let's go through this vendor. Let's go through Oracle as a cloud and then understand how the cloud systems work. So now let's say you're an IT manager, right? There is someone else who has a degree in IT, and then there is someone else who's certified in Microsoft Azure, right? They have a certificate from Microsoft that states that they fully understand Microsoft Azure. And then we have someone else who has a degree on the side. You are an IT manager. Who are you going to employ? We have two candidates, right? The first candidate, he has a degree in IT. And then the second candidate has a certificate coming from Microsoft stating or proving that this person really understands the Azure Active Directory concept. Letabo.
I'll take the Microsoft certificate.
Take Microsoft certificate. Anyone who's going to choose maybe the diploma or degree guy to give us their, to support their answer. Nontobeko, you want to answer that? All right, so most companies these days, if they have a system, if they want someone else to support Microsoft Azure, some will say, okay, you must have a degree or a diploma in IT plus a Microsoft Azure certificate, right? So, because now it gives confidence, it gives them confidence, okay, this person really understands Microsoft Azure systems because they have a certificate from Microsoft. A degree, they don't focus on Cisco. They just tell you that there's networking, right? These are the protocols. These are how network systems communicate, but they don't dive deep into Cisco per se. So these days, you might find companies say, okay, a degree plus an international certificate, a vendor-specific certificate, right? Or some companies will go directly and say, okay, we don't want your degree. We just want a Microsoft Azure system. These days, we have people that didn't go to university, right? They only took the path of the certificates. They're earning good salary because of what the Microsoft, because of these industry certificates. And then for these industry certificates, you can even tell people that are at home, right, that don't have matric certificate. They don't need matric certificate to do this. Some developers these days, they don't have a degree in IT or to say a degree that says, okay, they are developers. But it's not that they are good in that or they have a certificate. So just spread the word out there. If there are people that really want to pursue IT as a career, let them know that they don't really need matric certificate in order for them to get in the industry, especially older people. Older people. I've seen older people that have been working in the industry maybe for about like 4 years or 5 years as assistants. They don't have a certificate, but they've experience. Have you ever seen people like that? They've been in the industry for 5 years. They don't have any qualification. They've been working as an assistant to a technician. The technician earns about maybe, let's say, about 50 or 60K. But maybe they're earning maybe 6 or 10 because they're an assistant. So those people, these are the people now these industry certificate targets or looking for. They will say 5 years experience. We're not looking for a matric certificate, but we're looking for the experience. You have been working on Microsoft Azure, but it's just that you don't have a college degree. You don't have that certificate. So for people who have been in the industry, it comes in handy. Like you get the certificates and then you increase your salary. So sorry, Letabo, you had a question?
No, I wanted to make sure, sir, that you said no matric certificate.
Yes. So this industry certificate, you don't need a matric certificate. You can just take an A+ a Cisco exam without without a matric certificate. But I think it really works. These industry certificates, they really work for people that have been doing, who have been assistants for maybe technicians for about 2 or 3 years. They already know how the systems work. But what they're looking for is the certificates that prove that they really understand that that specific, what you call a specific technology. So those are the people that you have to tell if they don't have certificates. There is no need for them to work as an assistant for 4 years or 5 years. They can be considered certified technicians by taking this path. And again, if you have a degree, this international certificate, they become now an advantage to you because you have a degree plus this international certificate. And again, if you want to be a manager in any organization, this is not the right route to take, right? For certification, most guys, they, if you want to be a manager in any organization, they're looking for degrees, diplomas, maybe something like that. Unless if you want to be a manager when it comes to IT, unless if you have a certificate, the expert level certificate, then you become a manager, like your Chief Information Security Officer. There's a certificate for that. There's a certificate for called the CISSP. That one, you only take it when you have like 10 years hands-on experience. And then also you must have, okay, I have a question coming from Zimbili. Let me check that question. Zimbili says, does one need to be registered with an IT organization to take the Chief Security CSO exam? No, you don't need to be. So what you do is with this international certificate, right? You just go online, YouTube. Let's say you look for an instructor or a YouTuber that teaches maybe, let's say, CompTIA. You start the CompTIA A+, and then once you are ready, you can go take the exam. So there is no specific time frame whereby you have to take the exam. You can, when you feel like you are ready, then you can go take the exam. But you don't have to be registered with any institute. But for the Chief Information Security Expert, they need a proven record that you have been working as an IT personnel. Yeah, Ebenezer. So Zimbili, there is, okay, Ebenezer, I'll come to you. Zimbili, there is what we call the entry-level certificates. The entry-level certificates, you know, you don't need any experience. You don't need any proven record that you've been in the industry. Entry-level, these are CompTIA certification. You can take those, and then after that, go for higher certificates. So A+ or entry-level certificates, you don't have to be associated with any organization, any training organization. Ebenezer, your question? Ebenezer, you can go ahead. We can't hear you. All right. Okay. Ebenezer's hand is up. Let me see if I can move to. Okay. So that was what you call.
Melusi.
Showman.
Yeah, Ebenezer here. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. You had
Yes,
a contribution or question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the BitLocker. Ne?
Yeah.
Let's say when you reload the Windows, right?
Yeah.
It gives an option where you have to create the BitLocker.
Yeah.
Yes, and after loading the Windows, once a user is busy operating the machine, it requires the BitLocker. Once you enter the BitLocker, the password doesn't allow. So I wanted clarification on that one.
No, like because the BitLocker mainly is used like to encrypt your information. So we have different types of encryptions, right?
Yes.
We have what we call data in use encryption, whereby when you're currently working on your data, then the system will automatically encrypt the data that you're working on. That type of encryption is used at the banks. And then we have another encryption where data in transit, whereby the data that is moving from one computer to another computer is being encrypted. And then we have, it's supposed to be 3, I forgot the other one. But the BitLocker mainly is used to encrypt your data so that when you lose your data, when you, let's say you lose your computer, and then that person, they will need your key to decrypt that information. I don't know why the system will reject your BitLocker key.
Oh, okay. So if I back up, okay, I understand that part. If I back up my stuff on cloud, ne?
Yeah.
Then I reload the PC, then I ignore the BitLocker part. Is it fine?
If you load your stuff on cloud.
On cloud, yes, and I reload my PC, then while busy reloading it, I ignore the BitLocker part.
That's fine, because once you load it on cloud, then it's fine, because BitLocker, the one that's in your local machine, it encrypts what's on the local machine. Unless if you're loading it on cloud, Microsoft Azure, then you will the BitLocker on cloud is the one that will encrypt that information.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So BitLocker definitely is used to kind of like encrypt your data, especially for organizations, right? Like we have to implement or activate BitLocker so that when we lose that information, when we lose the PC, then if anyone tries to use that hard drive, they will need now to present that password that we use there so that the information can be decrypted. So when it comes to encrypting files, we have BitLocker and then we have EFS. I think we spoke about this. Was this group or another group? EFS is for encryption file system. It encrypts file on a file level, right? Let's say you using your computer with other people, right? There are other people that have access to your computer. And then there's a specific document, there's a specific folder that you want to encrypt. Then you can use EFS to encrypt that specific file. And then only the person who will produce the correct username and password, or the password, they'll be able to have access to that specific folder, right? So we have a BitLocker. The BitLocker will encrypt the entire drive. And then we have the EFS. The EFS is the encryption file system. It encrypts folders, files. Okay. Any questions? Ebenezer. Okay, Ebenezer didn't ask any question. Okay, so let me move to a firewall. So, okay, let me come this side. Let me just show you around here. So you can see here we have so many resources. So once you are proven, once you have taken Microsoft Azure certificate, it means that you are able to manage and deploy all of these resources. So we have resource groups. You understand the resource groups. So resource group is just a feature of grouping different resources. Like if you want to put maybe many resources in one group, you can put them all that group. And then app services for developers, function app. So if you, for now on my side, I try to take the expert level exam. I felt I missed that with maybe 2 questions. So I missed with 2 points then. But I'm going to take it again, the expert level. I have the fundamentals one, which is Azure 900. And then I have the administrator. I'm a certified administrator on this Microsoft Azure platform. I felt the last one, yeah, it was quite a difficult exam, right? So, okay. So once they consider you an expert, that means you understand how to manage and how to deploy all of these resources. Then you become an Azure expert. The exam number for that is AZ-400. So you become an expert. All right. The fundamentals for this is, the exam is AZ-900. So you can check it online. If you want to take the exam, it's AZ-900. Okay, so let me come back to this part. So today we're focusing on where is it? Azure Active Directory. So next time we're going to talk about virtual machines, how to configure, how to deploy an Azure virtual machine. So virtual machine is just one desktop that has been granted access, that we grant maybe different users in our network access to it. All of them, maybe 20, 50 users, they'll be using one machine, but all of them, they have their different accounts on that one machine, right? So we're going to do that. And then the other one that we're going to do is this SQL database. So how to deploy a SQL database, and then also how to query an SQL database. We're going to use SQL language, right, to retrieve information from the database. So those are the 2 features that we're going to look at. I don't know when we have time. Okay, so let me switch to this part now. Refresh that. So now we're looking at the firewall, the controls that we have in our network, right? How do we control, how do we monitor different users that we have in our network? So this is an iShield Ng5 firewall, right? So a firewall is used to control access in our network, like, so to control who has access to what resource in our network. So we have what we call the Ng firewall, the next generation firewall. So this next generation firewall, they are able to block access using maybe the URL, which is maybe facebook.com or gmail.com, all of those things. So we can block using the application. Back in the day, the firewalls were not this smart, right? We only were able to block users based on their IP address, based on their MAC address, or based on a port number. So those are the controls that we only had. But now there is new firewalls that we call them the next generation firewall. We can block people, or we can block URLs. We can block different sites using this next generation firewall. They are smarter than the old firewalls. And then the good part of it, okay, let's go through the dashboard. So we call this the dashboard. So this is how you access your firewall. This is an iShield firewall. You have to type in the URL for that firewall, and then submit your username and password. You can see I logged in as an admin. And then system graphs. So this is the information about what's happening in different interfaces. So without even me going into to the interfaces and trying to see what's happening there, I can use this tool to check what's happening in any interface that I have on the firewall. And then the devices that I have on my network. So if you want to see all the devices that you have on the network, the people that are connected to your network, you can click on this one. It will show you all the devices that we have on our network. So you can see different people. We have Adrian there. Okay, some of the information you're not supposed to see it. Let me quickly move out of that. Okay, live device usage, which is other feature that managers prefer, that they like a lot, right? They want to see these. They want to know who's using too much data in our organization, who's busy on YouTube, doing useless things on YouTube. So we can see today our highest user, there's our highest user, our second highest user, then third highest user, that's me there because I am on Teams, right? And then we have Opakeng exiting. So these are the highest users that we have on our network. And then, okay, I don't want to stay on this longer because this is the information, some of it that you mustn't see, right? Okay, top website report, right? So if you want to know which website your users usually visit a lot in your network, right? You can pull up a report for that. So if you want to pull up today's report, so it's unable, okay, it's failing to connect to that report. So let me go back there. You can pull up a report for the last 7 days, last 14 days, a report about the top websites report. So if you want to find out, okay, which website does your users always visit a lot? And then if you see it, okay, some of the websites are useless, right? They are not part of production. They're not part of what we do here every day. So we can block that specific application or that website. For example, if it's a website that maybe is for downloading movies and stuff like that, we can block that specific website because it's not part of production. It's not helping the organization. Okay, top user reports. We said you can find that information, top user reports. And then system monitoring. That's for the system. I don't want to show you much on this because this is our, okay. Okay, let me move out from this firewall. Let me show you a demo firewall. Let me say FortiGate, the demo. Let me say accept. With that link, and then also if you want to practice or want to know how to use a firewall, configure a firewall, you just go to this link, fortigate.fortidemo.com. The username is demo, the password is demo, and then just log in there. Okay, so organization use different firewalls, right? So as we're using iShield. So this is the firewall that we're using. You can see the dashboard and all the information there, right? Let's say now you move to a different organization and then you find that they're using FortiGate, they're using FortiGate firewalls. So you can see the dashboard is similar. So if you understand all of these features, information about devices, the bandwidth, amount of data that is being used right now on the interface, on a one interface, one uplink, you can see, and then you can see the protocols that are being used that side on the side of the applications, the port HTTPS, which is port 445, and then you can narrow down all that information. So once you understand one firewall, it becomes easy for you to switch to different firewalls. For example, we started with iShield, now we're on FortiGate. So you know, okay, this VPN, how to configure a VPN, security features for what, the status, you know, the bandwidth, as you can see now, which application is taking much of our bandwidth. Let me just move on this one. You can see the ID is 40568 summary. This indicates an attempt to make HTTP connection via a browser. So that's the information about that. If you want to move to devices, let me see if it shows me devices. So you can see the devices, software operating systems that we have on this network. We have ones coming from 40 operating system. We have Windows, we have 40 Mail OS. These are the softwares. And then the hardwares that we have on our network. So you can also use this for inventory, right? Asset management. If you want to know how many, what other vendors do we have in your network, you can come to the firewall. It will show you all the vendors. You can see we have computers, the VMware, computers from VMware, Fortinet, hardware from Fortinet, Super Microcom, hardware from Super, and then Dell computers, and then Gigabyte computers, and then Alana systems. So you have all of these hardwares. You can use this as an inventory. If you want to narrow it down, you can also do that, narrow down that information. And then you can also know how many Dell devices expand to full screen. As you can see here, it shows me how many devices we have on this network. Software 49 devices, and then if I wanna know how many 40 OS devices we have, you see I filtered that. It shows me that I only have 8 devices, and then unfilter that. I want to know how many systems are using Windows operating system. It's 4 devices in my network, and then you can also the sandbox. Only 40 sandbox, only 1 device. So the firewall can give you detailed information about your network, what's really going on within your network. So, okay, user authentication, let me check out that. Let me check out user groups. SSO guest user. So single sign-on. So this term SSO stands for single sign-on, right? So this is the part whereby once you log in on one machine or you have access maybe to different machines, that's a single sign-on. So you have to sign in once to your organization, and then you have access to different organization, to your different systems in your organization. Let me check out that. These are the groups that we have. So, okay, it's taking time to open that file. But on the side here, we have what we call the radius, and then the authentic, we have radius and then TACACS, which are the 2 protocols that are used for authentication. So we have radius. Are we going to explain? I think I'll need time to explain radius and TACACS. What does that mean? So let me just break down like a bit of what radius does. So radius, what it does is, let's say you have your username and password. And then you try to log into our network, to our portal, and then type in your username and then your password. And then the switch or whichever device takes that information, receives it, and says, okay, you want access maybe to a printer, you want access to this. But let me first check with the server. The radius server is the one that will be carrying information about the permissions that we have on our network. So radius server, and then the switch will take that information, send it straight to the radius server. The radius server will check its permissions, or will check the groups and say, okay, this is Litabo. And then on my system, Litabo has access to 1, 2, 3 resources. And then the radius server will grant you access. And then it will send like a token to the switch. The switch gives a token to your ID or your username and says, okay, there's an access to these resources that we have in our organization. So meaning the permissions are not really sitting on a switch. A switch might not have capabilities of giving you, of granting you access to resources, but we have a radius server, right? So the server or the router takes that information, sends it to a radius server. The radius server is the one whereby we've applied all of the permissions on, and then it will check, look at the user and say, okay, this is Litabo, this is so and so. So now which resources do they have in my network? And then grant access to those resources in your network. All right, guys, I'm done for today. See you when you see me. Let me see if what's the time? 1:30. I don't have time to go through the material, right? I just wanted you guys to know that different systems that you're going to use in many organizations. So these are the systems that you're going to use. Okay, it's taking forever to open that. Let me see. I want to do something. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, I'm about to close this meeting. All right, guys. Thank you for attending. I don't think we have